The time has finally come. I have been teasing this for a little while now, but I have officially composed a ballad of 48 Sims who are going to compete to get on Sims 4 Survivor Second Chances, which we will of course be following the Second Chances season of Survivor Cambodia. However, before we can do the season, we are going to have to make up a cast. And so I handpicked 48 contestants that I think deserve a second chance in the game. These are all one-time players, so no returning players is on this list. And who is going to be on the cast, that is going to be up to you guys. The forum is split into 2 men and women. So we have 22 men and 22 women. And the 10 highest vote getters from each category will make it onto the cast. There are also 4 non-binary contestants who will be eligible to be voted for on both forums, so they will take up a male or a female spot if they end up receiving more votes than a man or a woman will. Momentarily, I will go through the entire list and explain why I think they deserve a second chance, why they are on the ballot. But if you don't really want to watch that, that's fine. You can skip that and just go in the description down below where I have posted a link to a Google form, excuse me. It would also be in a pinned comment in the comments section. So if you don't want to watch that entire thing, you can just go ahead and vote right now if you want to. However, if you don't know exactly who these people are, why they are on the list, let me introduce the 48 contestants who will be on the ballot. And where else do we start but the very beginning? We are starting with Season 1 of Sims 4 Survivor, base game versus expansion pack versus game pack, where we have 4 players on the ballot. First, we have over here Alphaba, one of the sages from Glimmerbrook. She was on the season representing the Realm of Magic game pack, and was the last remaining game pack member to be voted off on the season, made it all the way to 4th place. She was kind of an underdog, but managed to sneak her way all the way to almost the end game, and was just 1 vote short from making it into Final Tribal Council. Then we have another of the underdog game pack trio. Irvin Price is here, who was in 6th place on the season. He kind of worked with the Power Alliance for a little bit, which made him safe for a few tribal councils. However, he did end up turning on the Power Alliance and working with the game pack members instead, and that eventually caught up to him and he ended up getting booted in the 6th spot. Then we have the first player to be idled out of the game. Judith Ward is here on the ballot. She came in 8th place after Nancy Landgrab played a hidden immunity idol on herself, negating half of the votes. It was going to be a tied vote, but instead Judith Ward was eliminated with 4 votes. She is also the first player in Sims 4 Survivor history to win 2 individual immunities, and therefore set the record until Bernard broke it in Generations. And then the last person for Season 1 is Brand Hacking, who is the first player to be voted out with an idol in his pocket. He was the merge boot on Season 1, got eliminated in 11th place. In the pre-merge, he was kind of a big character. He had a men's alliance going on. He did pretty well throughout the entire pre-merge, but as soon as they made it to the merge, he was perceived to be a threat by the Power Alliance and was blindsided, was eliminated, became the first member of the jury. Next, we move on to Season 2 of Sims 4 Survivor, Brains versus Brawn versus Beauty. First on the board, we have Shock Willariel, who was our runner-up on Season 2. He was a member of the Power Alliance for most of the game, did end up wavering a little bit for a few episodes, but he solidified himself within the Alliance at the end game and ended up going on a surprise immunity run in the end game, which secured him a spot at the Final Tribal Council, where he lost to Caleb Vitor. Then we have another member from the Dominant Alliance, Celeste Michelson, who ended up going out in the 4th place spot. She found 2 idols. She misplayed both of those idols, but nonetheless, she did find them. For the most part, was just a loyal member to the Alliance. But because she was kind of on the bottom of the Alliance, they did end up getting rid of her. Then we have Morgan Ember, who got booted out in 7th place. They are also an unfortunate victim of an idol play when they were idled out of the game by Arturo Lin. They were also a member of the Power Alliance, however, they had just quit the alliance and were going to turn on them when they got idled out of the game. So it was actually kind of bad for Arturo to do that, since he could have used an extra ally, but oh well. Next up, we move on to Season 3 of Sims 4 Survivor, Battle of the Sexes, where we have 2 people, only men, because we have actually had like almost half the cast of Battle of the Sexes returning. So first up, we have Kyle Carlson, who came in 3rd on the season. He was on the men's tribe, of course, but ended up betraying the men to work with the dominant women's alliance. And then he ended up becoming kind of a goat to the end. Never rocked the boat, was clearly not winning, and somehow never received a single vote until he got cut at the final 3. But he did end up getting cut at the final 3, as the 2 women next to him were thick as thieves and wanted to go to the end together. And then the other one is Brent Hacking. Yes, we have both of the Hacking boys here. He came in 7th. He was easily the most strategic thinker on the original men's tribe, perhaps after Ian Moody. He played a very solid game in the pre-merge, similar to his husband. However, he ended up being perceived as a threat by the dominant women's alliance, so they got rid of him. Then we have Season 4 of Sims 4 Survivor Generations. We have Jeb Harris, who was our 4th placer on the season. He managed to win 3 immunity challenges, which was pretty impressive considering that Bernard won 4 immunity challenges, which basically just means that Bernard and Jeb were just trading immunity challenges. He was a member of the Dominant Alliance, but because of his competition prowess, they ended up getting rid of him in the end game. Didn't want him at the final tribal council as they thought he could catch some votes. Then we have a baby Ariel over here, who was the merge boot on the season, and there's honestly no reason for her to be here, other than that I thought it would be funny to put her on the ballot. We're gonna need a few wild cards on this ballot, why not? And then we have Aurelio Robles, who was in 15th place. However, they ended up getting rocked out of the game and are the first player ever to be rocked out of the game. So for that reason, I think they fit well within the theme of the season of second chances. Before getting rocked out of the game, they were actually in the dominant younger person's alliance and were looking to be in for a deep run in the game. But there was a pretty rough swap for him and his alliance member, as they went into a 3v3, young versus old, and the result was Aurelio got rocked out of the game. Also had an idol when he got rocked out of the game, so he could have actually been safe that round. We move on to Season 5 of Sims 4 Survivor Worldwide, which has seen some of the best Sims 4 Survivor players of all time. First up, we have Summer Holiday here, who was our 17th placer. She was the fan favorite. Basically, everybody liked her. She kind of became an underdog at the merge as the former Bunny Tribe members got targeted by the, what was the other one? The Rabbit members, maybe? No, the Chicken members. That's right. But she ended up being the second to last Bunny Tribe member to remain in the game. Although the last one to remain was Wolfgang Wilder, who was not originally on the Bunny Tribe. He was on the Chicken Tribe and then mutinied over to the Bunny Tribe because he was in a bad spot on the Chicken Tribe. Then we have Julia Wright, who was our merge boot on Worldwide, came in the 9th place spot. She was also someone who mutinied because she felt like she could try to get some relationships in with the other tribe members before the merge and enter the merge in a better spot than she otherwise might have. However, that didn't really work out for her. She had the hidden immunity idol, which everybody basically knew about because she got sent to Exile Island a bunch of times. And the tribe tried to vote her out. She played the idol, leaving her vulnerable at the merge, and they just got rid of her. Next, we have Makoa Kealoha, who was eliminated just short of the merge, came in 10th place. Basically, everybody hated him for some reason. He was just not well liked on the cast, and yet somehow he made it as far as 10th. He was also in that Jenny Kuzambe spot that he got screwed over by the bottle twist, which is one of the worst twists in Survivor history. Although maybe not anymore considering the new era. And then the last one is Jay Robles, who was in 13th place. They started off on the wrong foot with almost everyone unanimously disliking them, but as the season went on, they slowly began to dig themselves out of the hole they were in, and it was looking like they were on a redemption arc of sorts. and becoming a viable player in the game, but unfortunately it ended up getting cut short as they were kind of voted out at random when their tribe went to tribal and no one really had any idea of what they wanted to do, so it just kind of landed on Jay. Next up, we have Season 6 of Sims 4 Survivor, Strangerville, where we have 3 players on the ballot. First up is Eloise Hiddlesticks, one of our runner-ups. She was in the dominant alliance, although she did kind of flip-flop a few times. She didn't always vote with them. It ended up working out pretty well for her. She made it all the way to the final tribal council where the vote tied, and she was only one fire-making win away from winning the whole thing, but instead she did not win. And then we have Paka Uha, who came in 6th. He was one of the 2 main strategic players on the Secret Agents tribe, one of the head of the Secret Agents boys trio, the #1 ally of Jeffrey Landgrab. He even played an idol on Jeffrey at one point. And then last on the board here, we have Simon Scott, who came in 8th. He was an early target in the pre-merge, but was saved by their tribe not really going to tribal all that much. So he made it all the way to the merge, but kind of got twist screwed when a second vote was held at Tribal Council, right after a Tribal Council where he had just been immune. So his former tribe members, they ended up turning on him and sent him to the secret lab where he managed to win 1 duel until he got eliminated the following duel. For Season 7, Tartosa, we have George Cahill, who came in 8th place. He was one of the 2 big underdogs coming from the Flower Piles tribe that got called at the merge. He was tightly aligned with one of the biggest underdog in the show's history, Marissa Tracy, who he played an idol on at one point. And then he ended up becoming somewhat of a martyr to Marissa's success in the game, as once he went out, it allowed Marissa to get her legs in the game a little bit and go on a deep run. Then next up, we have Grace Anansi, who came in 9th place. She was a very forceful strategic player on Tartosa, kind of a polarizing character on Tartosa, actually. She ran her alliance with an Iron Fist, which ended up not working out super well, as one of her main allies, Mickey Armolino, ended up jumping from the alliance onto the rival alliance. And with Mickey jumping ship and Grace having a fierce rivalry with Francine Spencer, they decided to just get rid of Grace and chop the head off the snake. Next up, we have Darling Walsh, who came in 11th place, the first medically evacuated player on Sims 4 Survivor. She had a pretty solid social game prior to her removal from the game, going out with not a single vote cast against her. And perhaps if she had stayed, she would have made it a little bit further. Unlikely, actually, because she was on the tribe that was getting called at the merge, but perhaps she could have made something happen there. And then we got Dustin Broke, who came in 12th place. The merge boot of Tartosa. He was one of the least liked person on the cast, was hated by basically everybody on his tribe, and yet somehow he made it all the way to the merge before getting booted in the first merge episode. He also voted incorrectly at every tribal council he attended. Didn't even vote for the right person to win, which is kind of funny. We will skip All-Stars, of course, as that was all returning players, and instead we will move on to Season 9 of Sims 4 Survivor, Sims 4 Survivor Copperdale. First up, we have Aaron Bida, who came in 4th place. He was pulled into what would become the main power alliance at the merge, and ended up being in kind of a fierce rivalry with Sienna Grove. Though in the endgame, the two of them ended up coming together to try to make a move against the power duo in Octavia Moon and Vanessa Kayaputri, but it ended up not working out in their favor. Aaron went into fire and was booted in the 4th place spot. Then we have Vivian Lewis, who came in 8th place on the season. She was one of the stronger players on the original Cheerleaders tribe, joining the large power alliance and having a tight final 2 alliance with Salim Benali. The big alliance eventually did fall apart, and by the merge, Vivian had become too much of a threat to the newly established power structure that they ended up just getting rid of her. And last, we have a pre-merge boot here, Lana McKinnon, who came in 12th place. She was a very promising player in the pre-merge and was one of the main figureheads of the 2 dominant alliances on her original tribe. However, she ended up getting somewhat swap screwed, and some of her former allies turned on her, turning her into a pre-merge robbed G.Otis. We move on to Season 10 of Sims 4 Survivor, Sims 4 Survivor Occults vs. Normies, where we have 2 players. First up is Sanjay Lee, who was one of our runner-ups. Sunja didn't really play that strong of a game on Occults versus Normies. She was kind of just a number for, at first, Denzel Rivera, and then later on also Rohan Elderberry. However, as the endgame drew nearer, she ended up starting to play with more agency. She became a surprise comp beast, won a bunch of challenges in a row, and then eventually was sent into fire at 4 and beat Denzel Rivera, one of the strongest players on the season, who would himself eventually become a Sims 4 Survivor winner on a returning season. She did, however, ultimately lose to Rohan, but she was able to scoop up 2 votes from the jury. Then we have the Night Wraith, who came in 5th place, the last remaining occult member in the end game. He was kind of at the bottom from the merge on, had an alliance with Bonehilda, and the 2 of them were targets 1 and 2 for a long time. And then after Bonehilda went out, people kind of looked the other way and didn't really worry about the Night Wraith for a while, which allowed him to get his teeth in the game a little bit. He ended up forming a relationship with Denzel Rivera, and along with Denzel, he was able to take out Gemma Charm with an idol. We'll move on to Season 11, Blood vs. Water, where once again we have only 2 players, since most of the cast was made up of returning players. First up is Cassandra Goth. It was looking like Cassandra was in a decent spot for most of the game, as her dad Mortimer brought her into the dominant alliance composed of the returning players, and she was set to make it far in the game. However, that all changed when the Caliente sisters showed up. They thwarted her chances of winning when Nina played an idol on Dina, and since everybody voted for Dina at that tribal council aside from the Calientes, their 2 votes were enough for Cassandra to get the boot. And then we have another pre-merge boot. Ash Harjo is here, who came in 14th place. They were looking to be the most strategic player on the family tribe, was involved in the only alliance on that tribe, along with Lavina Chopra and Dina Caliente. However, Ash and Dina would end up getting kind of swap screwed, as the 2 of them ended up on a tribe with only returning players. They did have Dina's sister Nina on the beach with them, and the 3 of them did try to pull off a pretty impressive move by getting the returning players to split their votes so they could become the majority vote in a 3-2-2 vote. However, Jess Sigworth, she sniffed it out at the last minute, swapped her vote onto Ash, which ended up being Ash's downfall. We move on to Season 12 of Sims 4 Survivor, Chestnut Ridge. First up, we have Aqua Song, who came in 3rd place on Chestnut Ridge. They were one of the strongest players on the season and the favorite to win after Kenneth Houston was medically evacuated. However, they ended up getting betrayed by one of their closest allies, Jacob Wolkoff, as he made the decision to cut them at the end in order to take the easier beat to the final tribal council, making Aqua the last member of the jury instead of sitting next to him at final tribal council. Then we have Karo Akiyama, who came in 8th place. He was closely aligned with Supriya Delgado, and the 2 of them kind of ran the roost on the original ranch tribe. However, once the merge rolled around, they were in the minority and very quickly became the main targets, with the 2 of them going out back to back, which leads me into our next contestant, Supriya Delgado, who came in 9th place. Same thing as Kato, Supriya had a very strong relationship with him, and the 2 ran their original tribe, with Supriya being the head of the alliance. But it all came kind of crumbling down once the merge hit, and Supriya, being the obvious figurehead, became the immediate target at the merge. And then we have Ava Capricciosa, who came in 11th place. Ava played a very solid game on her original tribe, formed an immediate connection with Marcel Price, and was looking to make a deep run in the game. However, a bad tribe swap ended up kind of screwing her over, as Marcel and her remained on their tribe with someone they weren't aligned with, and they were quickly outnumbered. Ava was, however, only 1 immunity challenge away from making the merge, after which she might have been able to put the pieces of her game back together, especially as her number 1 ally Marcel was able to make it all the way to the 5th place. So to me, she is one of those pre-merge what-if players. Next, we move on to Season 13, Granite Falls. First up, we have Faye Harris, who is one of our runner-ups. She formed an early trio with Dara Kam and Mae Prescott, and the 3 of them would become the 3 most influential players in the game. At the merge, as Mae wavered from the other 2 women, Faye formed a new alliance to counter Mae's attempts at reducing their power in the game and brought in Rosh Risoya, who would become a pivotal piece in Faye's game. She would make it all the way to the final 3, where she was only one fire-making win away from winning the whole season, just like Eloise Hiddlesticks, ultimately losing the game to her #1 ally, Dara. Then we have Sydney Price, who came in 5th place. Sydney struggled a lot in the pre-merge, being disliked by most everybody and catching votes at multiple tribal councils. He was able to survive by the skin of his teeth and entered the merge in a very vulnerable position. However, the dominant Women's Alliance recognized his position and picked him up as a number, so he was able to coast his way all the way to the final 5, where they eventually let him go when the consensus target became immune. Then we have Penny Pizzazz, who came in 9th place. Penny was doing alright in the pre-merge, where she was able to form a connection with Mary Greenberg. At the merge, however, her ally Mary became the consensus boot and Penny was left alone in a very bad spot. She didn't let that stop her though, and she was able to find the hidden immunity idol and win a couple of immunities. She became the target at the final 10 tribal council, where she played her idol, negating every single vote aside from her own. She didn't really last much longer after that. In fact, she got voted out in the following tribal council, but her impressive idol play and underdog status got her voted as the fan favorite of the season. Then we have Derek McMillan, who came in 11th place. Derek was looking to be someone to look out for in the pre-merge, as he started to form solid relationships and entered a final 2 alliance with Arash Risoya. However, their relationship was quickly sussed out by the Power Alliance, and the two were split up early on in the merge, thwarting Derek's potential in the game. Then we move on to Season 15 of Sims 4 Survivor, Mount Komorebi. First on the board, we have Chan Lin, who was our 3rd place finisher. He made it as far as he did due to his connection to the power duo of Layla Iles and Cletus Harris. The 3 of them had a solid alliance all the way to the end, but as he was the 3rd wheel of their trio, he got cut right before the final tribal council. Then we have Megumi Ito, who came in 10th place. Megumi was at the bottom of the sledding tribe, basically from the get-go due to her animosity towards the Power Alliance. She was able to form a final 2 alliance with Minsung Lee, who similarly opposed the power structure, but unfortunately for Megumi, her tribe turned on her at the merge, and she ended up becoming the merge boot, just barely missing out on the jury. And then we have Sunny the Tragic Clown. Sunny was on the Disaster Skiing tribe, which he was really close to surviving and making it to the merge. However, he found himself stuck on a 3-person tribe with a tight duo, so he became the last casualty of the skiing tribe slaughter. Due to that, he was also the only pre-merge boot to not get another shot at the game, as the Outcast twist allowed all of the previously eliminated players to vote one person back into the game. Now we get to our 2 most recent seasons of Sims 4 Survivor. We are now on Season 18, Glimmerbrook. First on the board, we have Leah Huada, who came in 3rd place. Leah was one of the biggest players on Glimmerbrook, having a tight final 2 alliance with the season's eventual winner in the Ring Bear. Throughout much of the game, she was the favorite to win, being involved with 2 dominant alliances, but in the endgame, she kinda neglected her relationship with Jazz McPherce, so once Jazz won the final immunity challenge, they cut her right before the final tribal council. Then we have Yasmin Tinker, who came in 4th place. Yasmin was also tightly aligned with Leah and was primed to make it to the end game. However, she ended up going on an immunity run, winning 3 individual immunities in a row. As a result, the other players were afraid she would just comp her way to the end, so as soon as she lost one, they got rid of her. And then we have Manuel Aguilar, who came in 5th place. Manuel is one of the biggest underdogs in recent memory, as he ended up being the sole member of his tribe going into the merge. Despite being clearly at the bottom in the merge, he managed to keep himself alive in the game up until the final 5, where he finally got eliminated. And then we move on to our newest season of Sims 4 Survivor, Season 19, Ravenwood. First up, we have Clara Bjergsen, who came in 4th place. She was one of the main power players of the season. Her and her #1 ally Juniper Grove controlled the game at the merge by flipping between their 2 different alliances. However, Clara emerged as an obvious threat to win in the endgame, having the most amount of challenge wins on the board, and so her allies turned on her, including Juniper. Then we have Nyan Spectre, who came in 5th place. Nyan had a very rough go on Ravenwood, being an option for almost every single tribal council he attended. He was disliked by a lot of people in the pre-merge, but was able to turn his fortune around by forming a tight relationship with Ignacio Robles and Clara Bjergsen, which helped him stick around for a while until he eventually got eliminated in the 5th place after losing Ignacio. Speaking of, next we have Ignacio Robles, who came in 6th place. Ignacio was looking good in the pre-merge, forming alliances early on and a strong connection with Mele Kahananui, but a bad swap left him in a vulnerable position, and it was looking dicey for a minute. However, he was able to use his good social game to keep himself afloat and formed a strong connection with Niam Spectre that would prove fruitful in the merge. At the merge, however, he started off on the wrong foot when he lost his number 1 ally Melee, but he was able to enter a strong 4-person alliance that helped him reach further in the game than he likely otherwise would. At the final 6th, things turned around for him and he became a target once more, but he once again tried to leverage his social game by flipping Mimsy, tying up the vote. But Mimsy wasn't willing to go to Rocks, so she flipped on him on the revote and he got eliminated. And finally, we have Valentina Nadir. She had a very strong final 2 with the Grim Reaper, and the two were looking to be the main power couple of the season, being involved in multiple alliances, one very large alliance, but all of their alliances ended up kind of splitting up, and some of them ended up just getting booted after the tribe swap. So once the merge came around, their allies turned on them and took power into their own hands, leaving Valentina and Grim at the bottom. Valentina was able to keep herself afloat in the game by winning a couple of immunities, but after not being able to win the third one, she became the consensus boot. So those are the 48 contestants who are clamoring to get your vote to compete on the next season of Sims 4 Survivor. As I said at the beginning of the video, the link is down below for the Google form. Feel free to hop in there and vote for up to 10 players on both of the forums, one on the men's side, one on the women's side, and of course you can vote for non-binary contestants on both forums. I will leave the vote up for about like a week or so, maybe, after which I will announce the cast in another video, and then I will just record the season, and maybe like a week later after that, we will have our next season of Sims 4 Survivor. So I'm excited for this. I hope you guys use your right to vote. Cast your votes against whoever you want to see on the season. And yeah, that's going to be it for me today. See you in the next one. Bye.